Good morning, everyone. And today we're going to be doing top to bottom analysis on gold, US dollar, or XAUUSD. As usual, we'll start by identifying our zones, which are essentially support and resistance levels on higher time frame. So wherever we have, so on the weekly, daily, and monthly time frame, wherever we have a support level, we collectively refer to that as a zone. Since we're starting our answer on the weekly time frame, that next is a weekly zone or a weekly support and resistance level. Here we have another weekly zone here. I believe there's a zone here. There's also a zone here. We have this as our all-time high, which is the highest point that price has got at. So now that we've identified our zones, we'll see if we can draw any trend lines. We can draw a trend line like this, but it's too far off from current price action. So let's delete that, or let's not delete it, let's leave it, because it's too far from current price action to have any relevance anyways. Then we have a trend line, something like this. So this is our weekly trend line. Next we'll go to the daily time frame. Now that on the daily time frame, we're going to do the exact same thing again, which is we'll identify our zones, which are higher level support and resistance, and then we'll identify any potential trend lines. So we have a zone here, a daily zone. We have another daily zone here. We have a zone here. Another daily zone. Now, once we've identified our zones, the next thing for us to do is to identify our trend lines. Trend line or trend lines, depending on the situation. So we can see a very clear bearish trend line like this. Let's change the shade. This is our daily trend line. Now let's see what other trend lines. There's also one that looks like it. This one is invalid. This one is invalid. I can actually hold this one sharp, but price has already broken below it, making it invalid. And I could also draw. No, that's not. I think think this is probably the only valid trend that I could draw. So this is my second daily trend line. So as you can see on the daily time frame, price is cut in a triangle pattern. Let's zoom in a bit. But I just noticed something. Look at this. On the daily time frame, price has just formed a W. Let's use the line chart. Price has just formed a W pattern on the daily time frame. Right, let's circle it. Right here. Price has formed a W pattern. If you switch back to the bar chart, you can still see it. It's even a W pattern that ends with a bullish engulfing candlestick. And this is on the daily time frame. This is resistance that became support. So that means that just based off of that, if you are familiar with something called frequency and resistance zones on gold, just based off of that, you can take a trade like this. Simply and solely based off of the fact that the W patterns appear. Because W patterns on the daily time frame are very important. And one that ends with a bullish engulfing candlestick is even more important. but let's not be in too much of a hurry. So let's delete this and let's follow our due procedures. The next thing for us to do is to identify our trend origin. So let's zoom out, see where we can spot our trend origin. Gold has been an uptrend for an incredibly long time. The truth is, if we zoom out, see that price has been an uptrend for an exceptionally long time. So it's probably the most appropriate for us to draw our trend origin much further away. But why is the time to go that far? So let's go to this point here. Here we have a range. This is like a correctional move followed by an impulsive move. So we'll just identify this as our trend origin. Even though this is not the real trend origin, the trend origin is so far away that we'll just find a substitute. So let's zoom in again. Now, let's identify our market structure. We have an impulsive move here, correctional here, impulsive here, correctional here, followed by an impulsive, followed by a correctional. But what do you now notice? Price is currently in the middle of an impulsive move. So typically, the best thing for me to do will be to identify my swing highs and swing lows. So let's do that. I will use blue to identify all of them. The reason why I said the best thing is because since I've already spotted a W pattern, and I'm basically already setting up my position on gold this week, which is a buy. I'm going to be buying all through this week. But let me not just say I'm going to be buying. I'm confident that gold is going to be buying all through this week. And I wish to follow along with that buy momentum. I have an impulsive all the way here. And then this is a correctional move. And this is a correctional. Right here. So let's delete this. So price is currently in a correctional phase. Sorry, price is currently in the middle of an impulsive move. So since price is currently in the middle of an impulsive move, what we're going to do is to look for a means of entry. For example, look at this. Let me circle it. Between let's go down to the 4-hour time frame and see what price shows us on these 2 points. Okay, so what do we notice here? Price forms a W pattern here, after which price buys, After that, price forms another W pattern here. Price continues to buy, and then technically there's a W pattern there, but it's much more, it's very choppy. The price action at that region is choppy, so it looks more like a range than a W pattern. But we can actually have a W pattern here like this. So you can see that 3 W patterns appeared all along the path of this impulsive move. We have 3 W patterns that appeared. In fact, it's actually a fourth W pattern that has appeared here, like this. So we have 4 W patterns that appear along the impulsive move. So if we now come to this second blue box, what do we see? Let's zoom in a bit and let's use line chart. Here we have something that resembles a W pattern, but the difference between the two lows is there's too much difference in the two lows. So this one doesn't actually count as a W pattern. Here there's also a resemblance to a W pattern, but the low, second low, is a bit too low compared to the first low. But even at that, when we use the line chart, we can see that there's actually a smaller W pattern here. Then when we now come to our most recent price action, what do we see here? We see a W pattern. We have a very clear W pattern here. So we have a we have a W pattern on the daily time frame. And we can also see a very clear W pattern on this 4-hour time frame. In fact, it's not just a W pattern. You can see price went like this, came up, and then came to form this W pattern. So the pattern is a little bit more complicated than just a W pattern. But ultimately, what do I still see? I see an opportunity to buy with my stop loss being somewhere around here, and my targets being at least here. But the funny thing is that my target should actually be above this 4,600 level, sorry, 5,600 level, because impulsive moves, I'm expecting it to break the previous higher high, which is our current all-time high. So I'm expecting price to actually break beyond it. But for the sake of safety, we'll just keep our targets to this level. So that's it for top to bottom analysis on, let me delete this, yeah. So that's it for top to bottom analysis on XAUUSD.